Hey, welcome to another edition of the Epicenter, where we're going to explore what does it look like to be the epicenter of the boom. All right, welcome to the Epicenter. Today I'm going to be joined by Rick Betenbough of Betenbough Homes and Kingdom at Work. So Rick and I met, I'm in the home building business as well. You've been in the home building business with you and your dad for quite some time. And we met, maybe 9 months ago, something
Probably,
like that, for the first time. We had a mutual friend connect us.
Yep.
And man, it's been, ever since then, it's just been kind of a lit up fire, I would say, through conversations we've had and all that kind of stuff. So I'd like for you to just kind of introduce yourself, tell all about Betenbough, what Kingdom at Work is about, and I'll just let you take it from there.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here with you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we get to talking about the kingdom and we just have a ball, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's mind blowing a lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, wait, you too? You know?
Yeah.
So, whenever I first got this whole idea about boom and ministry within the marketplace, I literally had never heard anything of it. And here we are in the same town.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, but, at first I was like, man, this is a game changer. We need to get this out all over the place. And as I came back, people were like, hey, have you ever heard of Kingdom at Work? And I was like, no, who's that? And they were like, Betenbough. And I was like, what? So I couldn't believe that. But then we sat down and, man, it just took off from there. So tell us a little bit about Betenbough Homes and then roll into Kingdom at Work and just give us a little history about you.
So Betenbough Homes has been building homes in West Texas since 1992. Rick and Ron Betenbough started in 92.
Okay.
Dad grew up in the real estate business here in Lubbock, building apartments, hotels, shopping centers. He built a few homes in the 60s, but he wasn't really a home builder. He was more of a kind of a deal guy, right? Yeah. And he used debt to do that, borrowed a lot of money. And of course, throughout that time, I would go to work with him. I'd ride in the car with him to work. In the summers, I'd mow lawns at his apartment complexes. Sure. And so from an early age, I knew that I was going to be in business. I didn't know what that meant exactly, or even what he totally did all the time, right? I just knew he talked to people and made deals and had property, and I just thought that was cool. And so I knew in my heart that I would do that someday. Well, in '84, Dad lost everything. The debt finally crushed the whole enchilada. He would say he lost everything and then some. In fact, he divorced my mom, 21 years his wife. So he really lost everything. And he ran away from home. He ran away to California, and I was 19 at the time. And I was busy flunking out of Texas Tech University. I guess I'm not really an academic. And, of course, you got to go to class to actually.
Yeah, you do
so
have to.
I wasn't doing
you have to do that, yeah.
So I flunked out of Tech at about 19, about the time that he lost everything.
Wow. So y'all are kind of together, almost rock bottom in a lot of ways.
Yes. And he said, well, I don't have any money to pay for school anymore, and apparently you're not really committed to school. So maybe you need to go do something else. So I went into the software business here in Lubbock, got a job with a local software company, and of course I felt like in the back of my mind again that I would be in business someday, right? So in 92, I built some homes. Actually, 91, I built some homes for a local doctor. Dr. Cho is a local oncologist, and I built her some rent houses. And when we were done with that, I knew it was time for this thing to be a retail or mainstream business. Yeah. And I knew I wanted my dad to be part of that. So I called him in California and said, hey, move back to Lubbock. You sell them and I'll build them. And I had this great plan for very affordable homes. And we were gonna conquer the world. I'll never forget, we got together in April of '92 for the first time. Now, he'd been gone for 5 years, so I'd kind of matured some,
Sure.
in that time. And so we had to get to know each other again, as adults, so to speak, and plan this business that we were going to do. And I had a big vision for the business. And I remember Dad had something on his mind. He's kind of joining a business that's already in progress a little bit, right? So he asked me, he said, hey, there's been something on my mind that I want to talk to you about with this business. And I said, okay, what's up? And he said, the first time around, I don't think I dishonored God, but I don't know that I honored God. I think I was building my own kingdom, my own thing, he said. And this time around, he goes, I was going to see what you thought about this, but if we have some success, could we honor God? That's what he asked me. I remember looking at him thinking, what in the world is he talking about?
Now, where were you in your faith journey, like, at this point? Were
Zero.
You, zero.
I mean,
okay.
I believed there was a God. I mean,
Okay.
maybe everybody in Texas believes that there was a God, right?
Sure.
But I didn't know anything about him, had never had a conversation with him. I'd been to church my whole life, which is crazy. You can grow up in church
Absolutely.
every single Sunday and not know a dang thing about God. And really, that's the father that I knew. My dad, Ron, was the same. As far as I knew, he didn't know anything about God. We all believed there was one, but we didn't know, what that was about, right? And so for him to say this to me, I remember I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I don't totally know what I'm talking about." He said, "We've been at a church out in California, and it was spirit-filled." He told me, and I didn't know what the heck he was talking about.
Yeah.
And he said, and some things have been changing in me, and so that's what I think. He said, we might give some money away, maybe, is what that might look like. I remember thinking about it for just a minute and thought, well, we probably could use all the help we could get, actually, right? So I agreed. I said, sure. I don't know what that looks like. And he said, me neither, but we'll start right there. And I love that because, as we look back on that, gosh, that was a pivotal moment, right?
Yeah.
Changed the trajectory of that business on that first day,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
The Lord met us right where we were, which was nowhere,
Right.
in our faith in Him, really, except to acknowledge Him and to join in with Him. I probably thought in that moment that I was inviting Him to join in, but I know now, He was inviting me to join in with His kingdom, right?
Yeah.
So we started right then. Holly and I, my wife of 31 years now, were 4 or 5 years married at that time, right?
Yeah.
And we joined the church that they joined. My dad was remarried to my new stepmom, Connie, and we joined the church with them, and the four of us started getting to know God a little bit, right?
Right.
Started on this journey. And that initially became a journey of hunting down ministries, Christian ministries, as we got to know the Lord, and we're pursuing ministries around the world that we could give money to. We thought our place in the kingdom as Christian business owners was to make money.
Was to make money and give
We're
money.
supposed to fund the kingdom.
That's right. Yeah.
We're not actually a ministry or anything like that.
Right.
And we did that for 5 or 6 years, and my wife Holly joined the company to lead that giving ministry, and our board would give, and we gave a lot of money away and met a lot of ministries, and gosh, those ministries started talking to us, some of them. And I remember the first time one of them said to me, I think this is a good thing that you're doing, but what do you think the Lord might want more from you? Does He want, could you be a ministry in the marketplace? In fact, aren't y'all kind of a ministry in the marketplace, this company?
So she challenged you.
Yeah, and wow, that was a big thought moment for me, right?
Sure.
I mean, I could be a minister in the marketplace. I'm not even sure what that means. I remember talking to Holly about it. She was hearing the same thing from the Lord. It came to her a little differently. That's what's funny. The Lord came to each one of us, visited each one of us, and brought this message, this shift He wanted in a different way for each one of us. Dad, myself, Holly, the rest of our board members. What He said to Holly was, these employees that you have, it's good that you're giving money away, but what do these people know about me from working for you, right? And so I remember Holly and I kind of unpacking this privately, the two of us talking through it. And I could tell He was inviting me to really engage with the people in a different way, to really love them. And I knew that I didn't. And I said, I don't know that I love them. I want the best for them and for our company. But I don't know if I love them. And she says, well, that's going to be a problem. That's what Holly said. Holly, who's made of love.
Yeah, absolutely. Best hug giver in the world, I'm pretty sure.
God sent her to me to help me my whole life with this, right? And she said, I think you're going to ask the Lord to break your heart for these people. And so I did. I started praying, Lord, give me a heart for these people that I'm leading. I can't go another step until you do that. And I'll tell you right now, you shouldn't pray that prayer because the Lord's faithful and he's gonna
break your heart of it.
he's gonna whoop it on you.
Man, that reminds me of a story of we won't get into it today, but a guy, he felt like he was being called in to do something different in the ministry, and he challenged God. He was like, Lord, you got to break my heart of it. And within a week, there were 3 different things that he had told God. He made this deal with God, and he said, all right, these 3 things, if this is what you're calling me to do, then these 3 things have to happen. And he said within a week, the 3rd one was, you got to break my heart of it. And at the end of it, he said he fell into his buddy's lap and just started crying. God had broke his heart of it. And so he is a passionate advancer of the kingdom right now through what he does. Really cool. I've only met him just briefly at the church camp that I was at this last summer, where this all kind of began. He was the guy that was brought in, but it was really cool to hear that. So that kind of ties right back into what
we can make a deal with God. I think. Right?
Yeah.
Moses made deals with God.
Sure.
Abraham made deals with God. It's for God. Now God's going to have His purpose in those deals, right?
Absolutely.
We can say, and God really did start giving us success that first day after that agreement that Dad and I, that covenant is what we like to call that.
It's a great word.
And so I can tell you, one of the things that's funny about that is in that conversation, somewhere in that conversation, I remember telling Dad, I bet we could build 50 homes a year, Dad. That seemed like a giant number and an amazing goal, right? And just all the time, Dad and I, in fact, last week, we did this again, just sometimes just look at each other and say, wow, aren't you glad God gave us His thing instead of ours, His vision instead of our vision? Because we'll build 1,350 homes this year.
Wow.
In West Texas, right?
That's incredible.
We have, we'll sell 50 homes in a week now.
That's unbelievable.
And that's the Lord, right? He's been with us from that first day, gently bringing us along.
Sure.
Showing us what a business that belongs to Him looks like. And of course, early on, it didn't belong to Him as far as I was concerned, right? It was my business. Because, we have that progression of, Lord, would you help me? Would you? We're praying for rain. Would you lead me in my business? Give me success, right? To, I want to go over here, Lord. Would you bless that? And you begin to move away from that towards, hey, where are you going, Lord? I want to go where you're going.
I just want to chase
where
you.
are you working? Where am I supposed to go along behind you? And that is a progression. And I was a Christian in business, I think, in those early days, right?
Right.
I wanted to honor the Lord. I wanted to do the right thing. We tell the truth, and you try to take care of His people. They're your people early on, and one of the things the Lord reminded me is, these are not your people, my people. Your people, Rick. These are my people.
Yeah.
Jesus said that, Moses said that, Solomon said, these are your people, and these people that the Lord has brought to me are not mine.
That's right.
I'm supposed to take care of them. And in fact, when you start thinking about it that way, it changes everything.
Changes your mindset completely.
Oh my gosh. I need to have a whole different look at this, and I think
it changes how you treat them too.
Oh, way. That's it, right?
Yeah.
We're supposed to lift them up to His highest purpose.
Yeah. One of the things that I've really over the years really started to kind of grasp and really look at differently is looking at people through the lens of Jesus, right? And you may hear that from time to time, but if you're just walking down the street and you're like, oh man, I bet that dude's a powerhouse. Like, we got to unleash him. We got to help him see who he is in the kingdom, right? And if we can begin to equip each individual person with who they are, their identity in Christ, I just think, watch out. I think we'll experience something that we've never experienced in our lifetime. You hear about revival and you hear about these different things, but I think that there's something. I think there's something around the corner coming, and I think He's moving in a lot of different ways. But that's the beauty of God is He's taking people and aligning and doing all these different things, and it's just fun to sit back and watch it happen.
He's moving worldwide, right, in the marketplace right now.
Yeah.
And He's inviting us to love these people that are His people that He sent to us. That's how this thing works. So we have been talking internally for a while about this idea that we're not a Christian business, right? In fact, can anything be a Christian except you or me committed to Christ, right? We got Christian music and Christian T-shirts and Christian businesses. That might be perceived as exclusive. I need to be a Christian.
To be a part of
Sometimes
this.
the American church has cast the church in such a way that people feel like they have to clean up or shape up or get squared away to come to church. And in fact, that's not the case, right?
That's
we're
right.
supposed to hire and invite everybody into this business that is God's, and so it belongs to Him because the leaders that founded the company and the leaders that came along and joined into that, together we've committed this business to be God's, His ministry in the marketplace, in the middle of the marketplace. What do you want to do, Lord? And so we think of that as a kingdom business. It has a kingdom purpose, but it is not a Christian business because everybody's invited to join in, right?
Right.
And I think that's an important distinction. Now, everybody in our business knows that I have a love for the Lord. And
Your faith is big. It's strong.
I mean, it's my life, and I live that authentically,
Right.
and brokenly, right? We have lots of troubles, and there's no perfection in that. But I love the Lord, and I'm seeking the Lord, and everybody knows it. But they also know that they don't have to. Join into this thing, and let's be a family together and figure it out. And probably 2 years ago now, our leadership redefined. I don't think it was a new purpose for us, but kind of reworded our purpose. It goes even really all the way back to that covenant that Rick and Ron made. And the purpose for our company, this ministry that belongs to the Lord, is to reveal God and His kingdom through our work in the marketplace. Reveal God and His kingdom through our work in the marketplace. That's our purpose.
That. Yeah.
That's our why. Why do we exist? It's not what we do, right? What we do, we build homes. We have an event center. We have a natural farm. We have these things that we do, but why we do them is our purpose. And I want to live out of my why, because my what might change.
Right.
And in fact, has changed a few hundred times, right?
Sure.
And that's where an identity crisis will come.
That's right.
Is if my identity is wrapped up in what I do.
Right.
I am a son of the Most High God. I am a son in His kingdom, right?
That's right.
That is my identity. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
And so I take my why with me everywhere I go. Put it, whatever I do, that's my why. That's what we have been trying to figure out for 30 years. It's a lifetime thing, right?
That's
so
right.
We figured a few things out. We're still figuring some things out, and we got a few more things to figure out. That's what that looks like for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the things that I've learned all along the way too. And is just the challenge of not accepting and putting God in a box. And we hear these like cliche sayings all the time, you put God in a box or, all these different things. And, man, he wants to bust those boxes and He wants to reveal who He really is, but we're so limited so many times because of our own belief system, or sometimes, just through how the devil works, like in us or through us, or how he tries to cloak us or tell us, oh no, that's not true, or all these different things.
Or we can accidentally make a deal with Him.
Yeah.
Do His bidding instead of God's.
Yeah, that's right. It's the deeper I've gotten into my faith in Christ, the more I've realized the whole concept of spiritual warfare, and what's really going on. And man, there is you hear people say, what's the meaning of life? And that's been a debate for a long time. Everybody's always said that. And I'm like, man, as a Christ follower, the meaning of life to me is to advance God's kingdom through the relationship that I've got with Him, so that I can share that same enthusiasm and passion that He has for me with them, right? Because He has that same passion for every single person that's on this earth. He wants to have that relationship. And it's not going to come through works. It's not going to come through all these different things. Now, our works is the fruit of what we do, right? Through our love for Christ. Yeah. And so you're going to see that goodness and the fruits of the Spirit and things like that. But I think the big goal is to just go out, and my whole focus and purpose and the prayer I pray over my kids and my family in our business and everything is, God, just use us to advance your kingdom. That's it.
Well, and kingdom is one of those spooky words,
Yeah.
Keith, right? I mean, it's
Right.
where everybody goes,
What does
huh?
that mean?
What is that?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? A kingdom is a territory of a king.
Mm.
It's where his rules rule
Mm-hmm.
and where he reigns, right? And so if God and his rules reign in my life, then there is the kingdom.
Right.
And that's bigger than me, obviously, bigger than my family, my brothers, my sisters, bigger than my company,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's we are to advance his kingdom, right? That's a critical shift here for us. Now, for that to be true in my life, I think the central point here is that relationship must rule over religion.
Absolutely.
Religion is the killer.
Yep.
We do these things to gain God's love. We can't do that. Did
Can't do it.
Jesus love people more once they got to know him? No.
No.
He loved us all. So you can't gain more love. There's no.
Yep.
He loves us infinitely, right? Whether we come to know him or not, whether we come to follow him or not. And this is an important distinction for us, right? So now our work just has to shift.
That's right.
It shifts for his purpose. What has he got going on?
Mm-hmm.
We been interviewing somebody for a role, and they worked for another leader, and they were interviewing for a role with us, and really, really amazing person, and would do this job well. But the Lord started pressing on our hearts that he wanted to reconcile that leader with their other employer, and that's what ended up happening. And we have to, God says his ways are higher than our ways. So whatever we're doing in the natural, God's doing something else in the supernatural.
That's
and
right.
For us to have a relationship with him, we got to hear from him. What are you doing, Lord? What are you up to? Why am I going to this meeting? I think I'm going to this meeting because I'm supposed to talk about this or that. But what are you doing? Is there something else going on
Mm-hmm.
that I should know about, Lord?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some higher purpose in mind? And so relationship with God instead of religious activity is the secret, right? I believe
right.
that. And so for this business to be his ministry, to be part of his kingdom, I'm going to have to hear from him. I'm going to have to talk to the king.
That's right.
Regularly and directly.
That's right.
I've told my kids since they were pretty young, I don't want you to go to church. I want you to have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
And a church is probably involved.
Yeah.
Church is not the end.
Right.
Church is the way.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Jesus is the end. Relationship with God, where we just talk driving down the road. I'm at a stoplight and I'm asking the Lord, what do you want me to do when this light turns green? I'm going to take off from here, and that's what I think is going on in the natural. But what do you want me to do? You want me to go somewhere? You want me to? And so
You just direct me.
this
right?
is the most important thing in the current climate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hear from the Lord.
Yeah.
Talk to the Lord. Have a relationship directly with the Lord. He speaks to me and has spoken to me for 15 years in our business about business things.
Right.
Led us to land, led us to deals, led us to hire. He cares about all those things, right?
Yep. I think that's one of the things is that, we've talked about hearing from God and all those kind of things. And I was 15 when I began to really more so begin to understand the difference between religion and grace and things like that. So, but I grew up in a Christian school, and so I was always kind of involved in Bible teaching and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I was 29 years old, 14 years later, when I heard God's voice for the first time. So
Wow.
I think sometimes it's not necessarily that once you become a Christian, you're immediately going to hear God, right? Sometimes you might. But I think it's this journey of what I learned from my own experience was just chasing him, right? Diving into his word, really getting in deeper into what he had to say and dissecting his word and just really letting him lead me through it. Now, he would give me certain thoughts and ideas, and maybe I didn't recognize it at the time.
Maybe he was talking the whole time, but you started listening. When you
I
were
started
29.
listening a little bit of it. Yeah, that's probably. Yeah, you're probably absolutely right. I began to listen a little better. So, And my story's similar. It was kind of my kingdom that I wanted to build, you know, and I thought, and I think it wasn't out of a bad place.
No.
I wanted to take care of my family. I wanted to provide. I wanted to give. But it was still ultimately my agenda, rather than God's agenda. And I was at a place of brokenness too. 30 years old and just broken and didn't know where I was headed or what was going on. And God just began to shake it up, you know, and man, we've been on a journey of a lifetime since then. We're about to start year 6 in our home building business, and I look back and I think, man, we never should have made it. I mean, we never should have made it, but because of God's provision over us, we've made it up to this point, and it's been a challenge, you know. I mean, they talk about businesses the first 5 years, and you know, it's been tough, grinding, and God telling me to hire people, or people calling me, saying, "Hey, man, God told me I need to come work for you," and I'm like, "Oh, really? Let me seek that out a little bit," you know. But sought it out, and then because of that act of faith on His side led us to 3 people that we hired, and I was only planning on maybe one. You know, we had kind of saw a need, and then because of it, God said, hire all 3.
Well, if it's His, He can afford it.
That's right. That's right.
If it's yours, maybe you can't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. So he just continues to provide for us in amazing ways, and because of that, you know, we've launched off into different avenues and different ways, and it's been really fun. But I think God has a journey for like everybody, but it's whether we're willing to die to ourselves, like you talked about, and say, God, your will, not mine, just like Jesus did, right?
Yeah.
He didn't want to go through that, but he said, God, your will, not mine.
So you and I, and everyone listening or watching this, can serve God fully in the middle of their work. And that's not something everybody understands.
I agree.
You know, the work has been stolen away, is this or that. But actually, what we need to do is shift our purpose away from, for ourselves, for our own ambition, to what do you want to do, Lord? And then He provides everything we need. We get all the other things.
That's
Seek
right.
first His kingdom and its righteousness,
and all these things shall be added.
Will be added, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't seek profit per se, although we need profit to
Sure.
keep going, right? But
Absolutely.
we seek His purpose, and He adds profit.
Yeah.
And we can be ministers in the marketplace and fully serve Him in the middle of the marketplace. We don't have to leave our business, His marketplace ministry, to be His ministers. We don't have to go to Africa. God might call you to do that.
Right.
You know, right? But
He may also tell you stay right where you're at.
He might. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, what He needs for us to do is to talk to Him, hear from Him, and bring His kingdom any place where He gives us authority or context in the moment, right? If He's giving you a business, then He wants you to bring His kingdom into that business.
That's
right.
right. That's right.
Or more specifically, He wants you to bring your business into His kingdom.
That's right.
Maybe
that's probably a better way to say that.
And that's what Kingdom at Work is.
Yeah.
For us, it's not a business or an LLC or a partnership. It's a phrase. It belongs to everybody who is kingdom minded and wants their work to be for God's purposes, right? So it belongs to everybody. It's not our own thing, and we seek to simply invite Christians in the marketplace to stand up and take their place. That's what is needed, right? It's what's going on around the world.
Yeah.
God is talking to His Christian leaders in the marketplace and everywhere, in our governments, in our schools, in the entertainment industry. God is speaking and saying, "Stand up and bring my kingdom into that place gently and with love. Lead with love."
Right.
This is not about religion.
Right.
This is not about the things that disunify us. This is about loving people right where they are. That's what God did for Rick and Ronald that day. We had an imperfect understanding of His kingdom and what He might want from us, and He was okay with that.
Yeah.
He met us right there, and we're supposed to meet people right there and just love them.
Absolutely.
And for God to be revealed to them through our relationship in the marketplace, He can do that.
So y'all came back together, was it 1994?
92.
92. Okay,
Yep.
So 92. And then, so that's what, 28 years if we do the math?
Yep,
27,
that's right.
28?
Yeah.
So 27, 28 years ago. And then you went for about 22 years operating that way. And then here comes Kingdom at Work.
Well, I'll tell you what happened really was probably in the early 2000s. the Lord got a hold of me, really in a new way. I was doing religious things. I was a Christian businessman. That's it,
Yeah.
right? And he got a hold of me and wanted to start talking to me and started changing that's where we became a ministry, I believe.
Gotcha.
Well, that's when we began to do that.
Yeah.
We began to have an understanding of what that looked like about 2003 or 4, somewhere along in there. And in 2015, the Lord really pressed on my heart to give operations of our business to another team. Just take a step back, and I had to do that before I knew what we were going to do, what I was going to do, actually. Holly and I talk about this all the time. Right? That evening that we had given my president of Betenbough Homes job to somebody else, I was like, Lord, what do you have for me? And the next morning he started telling me about this kingdom at work. He wanted me to share what he'd been doing in me and our other leaders and in the middle of his marketplace ministry with other leaders and other business leaders around the country and around the world.
So he asked you first to take a step back, and then he revealed the rest of it after that.
That's
there was a
exactly
step
right.
of faith that took
was.
place, because that probably didn't make a lot of sense.
Nope. I didn't know
at
what
the
I was
time.
going to do.
Yeah, and
Well,
I think
God
that's absolutely, and I think that's part of the beauty of chasing after the Lord is sometimes it doesn't make sense,
Most of the time.
Yeah,
In the natural, it probably doesn't make sense.
Well, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is we have our earthly mind or our worldly mind or whatever, and God has his kingdom mind.
Yeah.
And he wants us to tap into his kingdom mind so that his kingdom mind can come into our mind and change everything about who we are and completely rewire us to say, whoop, here we go, redirect and chase after him. And I think that's part of the beauty.
Right?
We are.
We're so about ourselves. We think the kingdom revolves around us, and this just in, the kingdom doesn't revolve around us.
This just in. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it does not at all.
It revolves around the king.
Yeah.
And so
tell me a little bit about Kingdom at Work. What do you guys, I know what you do, but tell everybody out there listening what y'all's focus is and what y'all been doing over the last 5 years.
Well, our focus is really to bring this message that we've just talked about, you and I, the message that is in your heart too, that we can serve God fully in the middle of our work, and we should. In fact, if you're running a business and you're a Christian, then you're obligated to go talk to the Lord about what he wants you to do with that. It's not outside of his territory unless you keep it outside his territory, right? He wants everything in your life, your marriage. You can't say, well, my business over there, Lord, No, he wants
it all.
And he wants his purposes to manifest there. And so really inviting people to think about it that way, because the Christian marketplace leaders out there don't think of it that way.
Right.
I can't bring my faith in. I shouldn't bring my faith in. And you shouldn't if you're going to do it in a way that's religious or runs people off, right? We're supposed to do that with love. I mean, Jesus brought truth,
right? But
he was full of grace, it says, and that's what we need to be doing, right?
Absolutely.
So bringing that message to leaders and walking alongside them, some coaching, some workshops where we invite leaders and their teams, senior leaders and their teams to come to Lubbock, Texas, sit around a table and commit to each other that this business that's previously been theirs should be God's. And what does that look like?
So you have them completely rethink everything about their business.
Absolutely.
Even though they may feel like, man, I'm a Christian business guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing pretty good. I give a lot.
Yeah.
I try and take care of my employees.
Yep.
But they haven't quite figured out yet what you're wanting to do is shed light on this concept.
And really it's about God wants more.
Yeah.
And it's going to be amazing. And I don't know what it is that he wants for you, but he does.
Yeah.
And so I'm inviting you to stop a pattern of religion, which is often what we're doing in our lives, and start a pattern of relationship with God and start asking him. We had a guy come to one of our workshops, longtime Christian, grew up second generation or third generation Christian, and I talk a little bit about where God has specifically led us in our business decisions, which is not something maybe everybody thinks will happen. I don't know. But he came up to me afterwards. He goes, I've never heard a businessman say that God has ever talked to him about his business.
Yeah.
He said, I like that. I'm going to start trying that tonight when I go home.
Put it into practice
I'm just going to go ask the Lord.
Yeah.
He said, I wasn't even sure the Lord really talked to us anymore. And wow, yes, the Lord speaks to us. Jesus Christ himself said, I have to leave so that the Spirit can come, the Spirit of truth can come and lead you and teach you and confirm the things. So we should be led by the Spirit of God. We should be having a communication with God
Absolutely.
every day.
Well, you know what? One of the things that kind of hit me one day was, think of the greatest business person that's ever walked the face of the earth. That maybe you've read their books, you look up to them, they're well known as this amazing business person, and it just hit me, and God was like, I created them. I wired them that way. I gave them those abilities. I was the one who was speaking into what direction to go and how to do it. So like, if we want to truly, man, as humans, we have the tendency to want to put people on a pedestal. And I understand it, but ultimately God should be the one on that pedestal.
He did it.
He did it. He was the one who created him and wired them. And so when you're talking about going to God about business, he's the greatest businessman of all time.
Absolutely.
Right? So because he wired those people strategically to do, and ultimately, whether they advance the kingdom or not, maybe they influenced, regardless, maybe they influenced somebody that became a massive kingdom influencer, right? And so we never know what God's doing, but I think that's an amazing point of speaking to God about your business and
100%.
putting it on the line and saying, God, Lord, you give me your wisdom.
Really, it's his business.
That's right. That's right.
And he has a plan. He has something prepared. In the building business, we need land. He has a piece of land prepared for us. It falls to me to stay close enough to him that I can hear his plan.
That's right.
And we'll have all the favor and all the provision that we need by his presence.
Yeah. So if you would have kept trying to do it completely on your own,
I was going to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, that's what the Lord said to me.
Yeah.
You're going to die, but before you do, you're going to kill a bunch of people. And I want you to change that. He started talking to me about that. Wow. My tough business style. I mean, I was a tough guy.
Yeah.
Tough business.
Yeah.
Draw
a hard line, black and white.
And the Lord can't use that. He couldn't use me.
Yeah.
Do whatever the Lord says.
Love it.
It's that simple, right?
Yeah. And
sounds simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Simple, but not easy.
But not easy, yeah. And a lot of times the gospel, it really is simple.
Yeah.
It's simple. We've overcomplicated it through religion, through these different avenues, and we're like, no, just Jesus. And then you begin to understand that through that, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and what that really looks like in the life of freedom. And in the next episode, we're actually going to talk about kind of that life of freedom and what does that really look like. And it's one of the things that I think as a society we struggle with a lot, because we think there's all these rules and regulations surrounding.
And we don't live free.
Yeah, we don't. And we don't. We're some of the most divided times that I've ever experienced personally. But I think it's a lot of times, whenever God first gave this to me, this last summer, and then I heard about the Businessman's Revival, and the Businessman's Revival truly started after a massive stock market crash, and it brought everybody to their knees. And what better way to bring business guys to their knees than to take the one thing that they probably depend on the most, their money, to bring them to their knees, almost what your dad went through in a lot of ways, right? Trusted so much in money, and then found himself broken, and not knowing what way to go. But I remember asking God, I was like, Lord, can we do this different? Do we have to go through some kind of hard thing, or can we try to go? And I guess he gave me 6 months to make it happen, but then here comes the pandemic, and here comes, and I'm not claiming that that's my fault, right? But man, he it's through brokenness a lot of times, and that's sad, really. I don't think he wants us to be broken to find him. I think he wants us to find him but I think as a human heart, a lot of times we have to go through that brokenness. And I see our country right now so divided, and he showed me through scripture here recently, just on the other side, this revival, and things that are to come. And I'm so excited about it.
And what's going on out here, he's not worried about it.
No.
Right?
No.
Isn't God sitting up there in his recliner, maybe smoking a cigar, right? He's relaxed. He's got charge of this thing.
Yeah.
We're in a mess, and he's inviting us to seek him. And that's really what has to happen in this season, right? We'll if we seek our opinion or our own agenda,
right,
then so will you, and we'll duke it out, all over the streets. And that's just not the right thing, right?
Yeah.
It's about loving each other. And
That's right. Let's jump into, I know we got to wrap up here soon. So what has God been talking to you about recently? Just in your time in the Word or different
yeah,
things?
well, I mean, obviously, he's given me more time in the Word, and everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's engineered a sabbatical here for
Yeah,
everybody, right?
absolutely.
Close doors, close stuff down, so we all have a little more time with the people that we love. I think there's been some of that,
Mm-hmm.
and just a re-engineering. It's almost like we all have these big jars full of rocks, all the stuff that we do, all the work that we're in the middle of, right?
Right.
And he dumped them all out, and the rocks are all over the ground, right? And he's inviting us. What are you going to put back in that? What are the priorities going to be?
Mm. Mm.
And I think for some of us, maybe we in America for sure, maybe we work too much.
Yeah.
I think that is there's some people that don't work too much.
Sure.
Maybe they need to work a little
A
more.
little more, yeah. Just a healthy balance.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we need to find our way to this place. And of course, he wants me as his son to work alongside him.
Yeah.
For my work to have his purposes in it, right? And so, I think he's on his throne. That's one of the most important things in this chaos. Everything's coming apart at the seams, it feels like, on some days.
Mm-hmm.
He's not.
Yeah.
He's not. He's still the king, and I need to follow him.
That's right.
I need to hear from him. What should I do, Lord? I shouldn't panic. I shouldn't decide to do this or do that. I should ask the Lord, what should I do?
Yeah.
In this season, right? And I need to stay close to him.
Yeah. I think that's all he desires is just to stay close. I mean, just like, and some people didn't have the opportunity to have a dad.
Yep.
So many are fatherless, but there's ultimately one father up above that is greater than any. And I love my dad. I lost my dad 3 years ago in a kind of a tragic way, but and he was an amazing dad. But I have one that's even greater than him and more amazing than him, that cares for me, wants to whisper in my ear and give me advice, just like my dad did, right?
Yep.
My dad was
He wants
amazing.
the best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad wanted the best. Well, so does he.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that we have to realize now. Just like my own dad, when I stepped out of line, there was some discipline sometimes, right? And sometimes those things come, but it's because he loved me. And the same thing is with my own son. And my own daughter and my youngest, I'm like, man, I used to tell Graham all the time, after some discipline, I was like, now why do I discipline you? And we taught him, and he goes, because you love me. And I was like, that's right. You got it.
That's the righteousness, right? Seek
right.
first the kingdom and its righteousness. We think of that as his order, God's perfect order of things.
Right.
And when we get things out of order, there are consequences to that.
Yeah. Yeah. He just wants us to, I think he truly just wants us to trust him.
Yeah.
And I've always said, at this point, my hands are just wide open.
And
Lord,
there's such freedom in that, like you said
there
earlier.
is.
There's the freedom.
Yeah.
In that I am loved, and I don't need to work for that love. I have that love.
Absolutely.
I have his favor. I can have his presence, his words, his wisdom, his guidance. I can have all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as as you and I have talked over the last, several months now, it's been amazing to watch how aligned you and I are. And that's one of the things that I love about
the
God
kingdom
is
does that.
It does.
A friend of mine always says, men cannot be aligned.
Hmm.
Only by the kingdom can we be aligned.
Mm.
We're competitors.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't even think of it that way.
Yeah, never have.
Because the kingdom is what aligns us.
It's the priority.
And it's bigger than either one of our
Amen.
businesses or any of the other stuff.
Yeah. Because we're going to come and go, right?
Amen.
I mean, the reality of this life is we're going to come and go, but the kingdom will reign forever, right? And so it's our job to expand that kingdom and take it forward and show people, no, this is the way. You've tried it so many other ways, and we said before that there's a lie out there that says seek your truth or find your truth, and it's worked its way through our society, but the reality is there's one truth, and that's Jesus, and then from that he will give you your purpose, and he'll wire you. He'll show you how he wired you. And then you can begin to find your truth. Because if you just want to seek your truth, right, then you may run over here for 4 or 5 years and be like, well, maybe that's my truth. And you go try it for a little while and you realize, no, that wasn't my truth. And then you run over here and you think, well, maybe that's my truth over there. And then you try that for maybe 10 years and you realize, no, that's not my truth either. And then maybe through that brokenness, or like, man, I don't know what I'm called to do, or I don't know what my purpose is here on this earth, or why am I even here? We hear that question a lot. I don't even know what I'm doing here. Yeah. And my one thing that I give people is, well, then seek the truth, right? And he will begin to reveal and show you who you are for his kingdom, right? So, well, man, I'm so glad that you joined us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I just think that, over these last 9 months, as God has aligned us with different people, I can't help but just man, sit in awe of the people that have come across our path as we go together to expand God's kingdom. And I think there's a massive calling for everybody. You've recognized that. I've recognized that. And I think it's ultimately time for everybody to begin to recognize their true purpose, And so I just want to thank you for your time. I look forward to more conversations. I know this isn't the only one.
Right.
We talk quite a bit, and so I'm looking forward to more conversations about what God's doing in your business and what he's doing in our business, and how he's leading us and guiding us. So appreciate your time, and we will definitely catch up again soon.
All right, brother.
If you liked what you heard today on The Epicenter, be sure and click that subscribe button down below and click the bell so that you're notified whenever we drop new content. Also, be sure to connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And know that you can find all of our episodes on your favorite platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now go out, be the epicenter of the boom.